What's up, Marissa?
So I'm calling today with a concern that I feel like a lot of Americans have right now about just the anxiety over the mass shootings recently, and just the fear of going out in public, going to the grocery store. And it has me really anxious. And when I'm in the grocery store, I'm in and out as fast as possible, and I'm looking around at everybody like they're a threat. And it's just not a sustainable way to live. And I just wondered how you thought we should go about handling that anxiety.
Hey, thank you so much for that call, Marissa. I'm grateful that you called because you're exactly right. Everyone I know is wrestling with it and struggling with it and thinking through it. And it's an unsettling feeling. It's an unsettling time, right? Let's just be honest with it. So the best way I can answer that is to tell you directly how I handle it. Is that okay? I don't have any major scientific studies or anything like that. I can just tell you what I'm doing personally. And I'll also tell you, I've responded to actual scenes of gunshot victims. I've been in there. I've helped clean those scenes up. I've helped move them those bodies. I've been there, and so I know what that. I have an intimate knowledge of that. I know what it's like. And so when I see some of these things, they will set off my alarms. All our brains are trying to do is take care of us, right? And the more we feed it this stuff over and over and over, the more our brains start looking for it because it wants to keep us safe. And what we've entered into with our media world, and I don't want to blame media because these things are really happening.
Right.
But they're not happening at every grocery store. They're not happening at most grocery stores. They're not happening at the vast majority of grocery stores or schools or colleges or fill in the blank. But we have a media system that is paid simply on how many eyeballs it gets, how many clicks it has. And so it has a vested interest in pumping that information into our brains, any shape, form, or fashion. And on top of that, every person's got a camera now. And in some of the justice-oriented things, those cameras have been lifesavers, literally, right? That's helped us see justice. It's helped us see another side of a story that we never would have received. In other times, it just gives us 84 new angles of the same trauma. And so these media outlets are just recycling and replaying all these different clips. Our brains are registering these clips, all of them different, and it is just saying, don't go to school, don't go to school, don't go to school, school's not safe, school's not safe. And all media is trying to do is just get us to keep watching. We can't turn our heads away from it, right? And so first and foremost, I just cut the media off. I cut it out. I have very few people that I plug into anymore, and they're folks that I value based on trust. And I can hear about it. I don't need to watch it. I'm pretty selective about what I choose to see. Because I know my brain is going to do its job. And when it sees something, it's going to set off a system of alarms and chemicals and mechanisms to keep me safe. And sometimes it overrides my thinking part of my brain, right? And so if I hear about the latest school shooting in state X, Y, or Z, almost never am I going to plug in there and go watch what just happened. Almost never, because I don't want that in my head. It was a few years ago. I haven't checked the data recently, but I did a presentation for a group of college professors after one or two high-profile shootings at colleges. And interestingly, at the time, the data said the safest job in the United States of America, the job you're the least likely to get killed at while doing it, was a kindergarten teacher. The next safest job was a college professor, college instructor. Yet, if you were to have watched the news, my colleagues were like, man, we're next, right? And we're getting often record numbers. The data said, actually, you're safe. It was the sensational coverage of media over and over and over. Now, have we seen a spike in shootings? No question about it, right? But is it going on every single place, everywhere? It's not. It's just not. And so what you've got to deal with is the reality that it could happen and the reality that it's probably not going to happen. And the best way I have found is to stop indulging the click fest, stop indulging all the drama, to be vigilant, to be smart. Now, I also found myself, I've been trained for some of these situations, and I've been trained to get out of some of these situations. Is that going to keep me safe? Probably not, right? But, you can know to look for it, but I don't even think that's necessary. I think being aware and vigilant, and then recognizing the data's on your side. So I want to ask you, give me an example. Like, you go to a store and you mentioned you're out just scoping people around. What are you looking for? What do you think you're going to see?
I'm just looking at people looking to see if they look, I don't know, like they're holding something, or like they're just looking suspicious. I don't know really what I'm looking for. I'm just in and out as quick as I can, or I do click lists. But I am definitely guilty of reading everything I can about every shooting that happens. I just let my brain get lost in that information.
So here's a really fascinating thing our brain does. Let's imagine back in the old days, and you may have heard me say this on the show, a bear shows up at the front of your cave, right? You and your family are snuggled in there nice and warm in a big pile, and a bear shows up. You see that bear, and your brain does not want you thinking, I wonder if that's a nice bear. Is that our friendly bear that comes around? That's the funny bear. It just has one rule. Run, right? Or if you can't run, fight. Grab sticks and rocks. And if you can't fight or run away, we're going to shut the system down and you're going to freeze. You're going to play dead, and maybe he won't mess with you. Or maybe he'll just drag you somewhere else and give you a chance to escape somewhere else, right? When your brain goes into fight or flight, it unhinges, it unclicks your rational thinking brain. It unhooks it. And it trades accuracy for speed. What does that mean? Just what you described. It's how a police officer who gets a call on the radio, somebody running down alley, armed and dangerous, fired off shots. And their heart starts racing. They get out of the car and they are worried about their own safety. And then somebody with a cell phone, right? Because your brain says, close enough, let's make sure you're okay. Or you're in a grocery store and you see somebody walk by and they look kind of sort of similar to somebody on the news, and they're holding a box of macaroni that kind of looks like whatever. Boom, you clench your purse tighter and you run out of that room, right? So here's a way to combat that. Number one, you're right. Turn off the news. Fight that impulse to just absorb all this info. And by the way, a lot of my friends absorb that info all day, and then they turn on some murder podcast, or they watch, and I'm looking at you, Kelly, they turn on some murder podcast, and then they go home and watch Law and Order SVU for the 21st season or whatever it is, right? That's just all they consume 24/7. And what you look for, your brain will find.
Yeah.
Right? And so when that's all you consume, everyone is a creep, everyone's a criminal, everyone's about to murder everybody. Here's the other thing you can do besides turning off that nonsense. You can intentionally spend time talking, looking with people, being with them at a grocery store, saying hi, how's your day going to people standing in line with you? And listen, when you first try this, your heart will beat because you'll be nervous. And then hopefully the front part of your brain will stop and go, is it so ridiculous that I'm nervous in line at a grocery store, right? And you'll realize, oh, that's just a tired dad trying to buy some chicken right? Or that's a tired mom you'll realize that 99.9999% of people are lovely and kind and just trying to get through the day too. So it's a decision I'm going to slow my breathing down so my brain works. I'm going to look somebody in the eye and say, a long line, huh? Or how's it going? Or I love your shirt. Or are you having a good day? Right? Just slow entry-level communication. And by the way, you throw a year away at a pandemic, right? And that's made it all worse. Now everybody could get us sick and kill us and all those things on top of it, right? So not only are they going to shoot us, they can just breathe on us and it's all over, right? So we are at apex fear level, heightened, and people are getting shot. They are getting shot, right? We've had a number of shootings right in a row. And unfortunately, we're going to keep having, it's just escalating. But the reality is the data says most of the time, most of us are safe. Not only are we safe, but we're surrounded by people who are good folks, who love us, and everyone's just kind of waiting on everybody else to go first. And so it has become a spiritual practice of mine, a mental health practice of mine, to look people in the eye, to smile extra big, make sure people can see my hands at all times. And this is stuff my dad taught me when I was a little kid, to make sure I'm kind and make sure I'm asking people how your day is. I would say 7 or 8 times out of 10, when you're going through a line and the woman at the counter or the man at the counter is going beep, beep, ringing your food up, and you just say, hey, how's your day going? They will pause. They'll freeze for a second because they'll snap them out of their mindless, dull job, and they'll look you in the eye and say, I'm doing all right. Or not super great, right? And you can share a laugh, a quick moment of humanity there. But Marissa, at the end of the day, the data tells us that most of us are safe most of the time, and it's our choice to go looking for beauty, right? And if you are in a situation, if you are in an environment that is more dangerous, if there's been more shootings in your area, then I'm going to advise you to go take a class. I'm going to advise you to go be wise, go meet with your local authorities and say, hey, we're worried about this area. What are some things we can do as a community? But chances are for sure, we are stressing ourselves out. We are much more likely to die of a stroke or a heart attack or some sort of inflammatory disease because we're living in this heightened, rattled stage than we are being shot, okay? Or driving too fast or tripping on the way out of the grocery store because we're trying to get in and out so fast. Slow down, breathe deeply, look people in the eye, regain our humanity. One, hello. Hey, why don't you go ahead of me? Go ahead and go first. Let me pick up, if you got the money, I'm going to pay for her groceries. One at a time. Thank you so much for that call, Marissa. You're awesome. I appreciate your heart there.